Let's try that again. I think we can do better. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to day 2. My name is Christopher Callahan, and I'm the Deputy Chair of the Center for Transformative Learning Technologies at UGHE. And it's my distinct pleasure to welcome you all to this morning's plenary, talking about innovation, AI, and transformative technology in medical education. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce a dear friend, Secretary General of COMSA, Dean of UGHE's Medical School, Dean Bebe Bekele.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so glad to be standing in front of you today as part of this session, as a moderator of this session. To say a few words, an introductory few words about what we're trying to do at COMSA in terms of technology. COMSA was set up last year with this common understanding that close to 444 medical schools in the continent share the same success and problems. Almost all of us suffer from shortage of faculty. Brain drain is a real issue. We hire faculty, they leave, hire faculty, they leave. Retaining is really difficult. Curricula is an issue. Not only curricula, we teach medicine in 5 different languages in the continent, and understanding one another, even in this meeting room, is a bit difficult, let alone for the younger generation. Several issues around infrastructure and training facilities. Underfunding, because about 90% of medical schools in the continent are public universities. Underfunding is not a simple issue. Data from the global community is that output from our African universities is 1/10 of the global product every year. Leadership, many of us who assumed deanery positions, presidency positions, took office without having the opportunity to be supported by either training or resources. We literally do not talk to each other in the region. Accreditation is an issue, as you heard yesterday. There are medical schools who are not yet accredited locally, let alone regionally. And our endeavors towards innovations, AI technology is serious. Data shows there are about 444 medical schools that we know of so far. I suspect there are many that exist locally. In terms of innovations and technology, the majority do not even use LMS, Learning Management System. It's brand new idea. Standardization of examinations, validation, quality assurance is not yet strong. The different modalities of education, such as case-based collaborative learning, simulation-based education, technology, is seriously underdeveloped. And less than 1 in 4 of our African universities have reached a foundational stage in digital health maturity. That's 1 in 4. 75% of us are not yet there as far as technology is concerned. At COMSA, we did a brief survey regarding, and the simple question we asked the deans were, in your medical schools, are you teaching your medical students a little bit about critical thinking, scientific reasoning, and human-centered design? It can be structured curriculum-based or ad hoc. About 75% said, yes, we do. But unfortunately, next question was, do you provide education around technology, transformative technology? Virtual reality, augmented reality, use of AI, use of resources, and so on. Less than 25% said yes. Now, if the young generation are not taught on technology, if the young medical students are not exposed to technology, AI, XR, VR, and so on, and if there is a global understanding that the future of healthcare is AI and technology, then we as deans and educators whose future are we talking about? Are our youth being prepared for tomorrow? Since we, the ones responsible to prepare them, are actually not doing that. So the COMSA leadership, including the COMSA AGM last 2 days ago, discussed on a few ideas. We created a technical working group on transformative technologies. In fact, we did our second meeting this morning. And we thought we need to really
brain in the future in specialty. And in the student portal, I want to touch on one more feature, medical case. So let's say Akimana wants to generate a medical case to practice on her coursework. Akimana comes here, again fills in details, and these details are by design. They are mapped to what Akimana is learning, to her curriculum, to her years, but also to her progress. So as she comes in here, fills in all the details, and can customize this medical case. Let's say we want our patient to be 28 years old. And then, so Akimana generates the case. Again, as the system here loads, it's going through all Akimana's progress. And it's looking at the places that Akimana needs to practice more or further. And right here, the case has been generated. You can see that the system has given Akimana the case, various details about the case, the patient background. You can see that the age is there that we said, presenting complaint and all that. So Akimana reads all through the case and start working with the case. So on the right side, there's a conversation side, a chatbot. This is the system asking Akimana, okay, you have this patient. How would you go about treating this patient? So Akimana starts interacting with the system and having a conversation with the system, just like Akimana would with a patient. And as Akimana goes through the conversation, the system starts grading Akimana and guiding them. In fact, look at the top here. We have a progress bar. And this is telling Akimana, okay, this is how far you are. With this patient, you've just done patient presentation, and next up is assessment and history, making sure that Akimana still feels guided the same way that she would in a classroom. So when Akimana feels like the session has been ended, can end the case, and now the system generates a summary of how Akimana did. So the system tells Akimana your overall performance was this, and it was this because you didn't do 1, 2, or you did this. In our case, it needs improvement because the conversation was short, but it also tells us the learning objectives that we met and the one we didn't meet. So it's telling Akimana, her weaknesses, her strength, to guide her through so that she knows where she needs to improve, but also so that she can, in the next medical cases, know where to practice more. And again, tell her recommended next steps so that she can keep on improving. So the system has a lot of feature, and what I just showed you is only a peek in One Space Africa. As you saw, there is a lot of portals, there is a lot of features that we are still working on, but that's what we are aiming for One Space Africa. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Liliane. For the interest of time, we are going to go transition right to the panel discussion. And if there's time at the end, we'll open it up to questions. I'm sure there are many. I just want to make one point as we transition, in that what you just saw is a prototype with some functionality that's starting to grow. But it's intentionally that way. It's really meant to provoke this group to think about, how do we build this? And what excites you? What problems can it solve? And this is really something for us all to do together. So more to come on that, and obviously Liliane and the team will be available afterwards. I'd love to start the panel discussion. I've had the fortune of getting to know some new colleagues as part of this, and I want to take a moment to introduce them. Could I ask the panelist, when I start introducing you, if you could come up and take one of these luxurious seats. If I could get the slide for the panel discussion. Great. So we thought we would organize the panel discussion surrounding the life cycle of transformation as another sort of educational piece for us to put a framework around this discussion. So it's really about how do you get an innovation to the bedside, to the classroom. And so we are fortunate to have some experts in each of these steps or domains of this. In customer discovery, tech development comes next. Stage 3 is how do you create change? And we keep coming back to that important step that can often be limiting. And then ultimately, how do you analyze what it is that you've brought to market, and how do you look at the return on investment? So if I could have some of my friends and panelists join, Professor Simone Titus Dawson. Professor Simone is Associate Professor in Health Professions Education at Stellenbosch University, Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences. She holds a PhD in education with expertise in technology-enhanced learning and educational transformation. Her work is well aligned with the SDGs 3 and 4. Welcome, Simone. And the African Union's Agenda for 2063. Her research focuses on inclusive, contextually relevant learning through gamification, as you heard Liliane talk about, generative AI, augmented reality, and virtual reality. She's recipient of the Black Academic Advancement Program Award and has served on the WHO Africa Curriculum Development Advisory Group. She's an executive member of the Southern African Association for Health Educationalists, and she leads their Learning and Technology Special Interest Group. We're fortunate to have Simone. She has a broad background in spanning health sciences, gender studies, health education, and she's tremendously committed to the advancement of equitable, digital, fluent health professions education. Welcome. Our second panelist, Dr. Salsuit Tesfaye, if you can join us. Dr. Salsuit is a physician innovator and East African Biodesign Fellow. And if that's not enough, she's CEO of Inoheza, which we'll hear more about. Her work focuses on translating unmet clinical needs into medical technologies from Africa, and she uses the biodesign process, which is obviously integral to what we're going to talk about today. She's a recognized advocate for interdisciplinary collaboration between clinicians, engineers, educators, and entrepreneurs, and she has a broad vision of building innovation ecosystems that empower health professionals across the continent. Welcome. Dr. Chanel Pillay. We're fortunate to have Chanel join us today. She's based in Johannesburg, South Africa, and she's manager of scientific capabilities within global health, medical affairs at Novartis, where she supports initiatives that strengthen external scientific research and development capabilities, educational programs, and global alumni networks, all in low and middle income countries. Before joining Novartis, Chanel was an academic lecturer and research supervisor at the University of Pretoria in South Africa, and she holds a PhD in pharmacology from that university. She's passionate about fostering scientific excellence and strengthening research ecosystems to improve health outcomes globally. Welcome, Chanel. And finally, Dr. Fikadu Asefa. Please join us. Is Fikadu here? Oh, great. Dr. Fikadu is a senior physician and MPH with over 15 years of experience in health policy, strategic planning, and health quality improvement, strengthening healthcare systems at national and international levels. He's currently National Health Innovation Management Officer and spearheads the Grand Challenges Ethiopia initiative, fostering research and innovation to address clinical healthcare gaps. He's held multiple leadership roles, including the Senior Special Advisor to the Ministry of Health and Health Advisor for the British Embassy, guiding many multi-year projects serving health systems. He's also been CEO of an 800-bed facility and was that CEO during transitional change at the facility level, as well as large-scale staffing recruitment, So we're thrilled to have Dr. Fakadu with us. Welcome, panelists. I warned them ahead of time that these questions weren't going to be easy, so hang tight. Welcome, everyone. We are going to make our way around the transformative life cycle. And as you may recall, it starts with customer discovery, and Professor Simone has been kind enough to speak to that. What I'd love to do, Simone, is talk about what you call ed tech solutionism. And I love that concept. And it's something we have to be very wary of. It's this idea that we can be distracted very often by the technology and miss our goals and objectives. And so I'd love you to talk about that a little bit more. And what I'd love you to comment on is, how do you keep leadership and faculty focused on the outcomes and not get distracted by the tech? What's your strategy around that? And I'd love to hear a little bit.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. And so I suppose I should just take this opportunity to anchor the conversation through a critical lens, because I mean, we've spoken about how valuable technology is, and we see the affordances of technology within our space, and we've spoken about it, you know, through simulation. We see virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality, extended reality. So there are robust solutions in terms of what is available within our spaces. However, my hope is that we move beyond solutionism, you know, technology solutionism, and that we are not seeing technology as a new shiny tool, and that just because a technology exists does not necessarily mean that it's going to be a solution to our education technology or our educational pedagogical challenges that we experience within our spaces. And yes, we now see AI within our environment, and it's really powerful, and it's really, you know, the robustness of the tools is going to allow us to create learning materials at the blink of an eye. But it also comes with a risk that, one, the tools are biased. We don't know whose voices they are acknowledging, whose voices are built in these tools, whose voices are missing from these tools. And so we really need to be critical about how we adopt technologies within our space. And so how I do that within my environment is I adopt a design thinking approach, and we go with a people first approach when we are designing with technology. So go through an iteration of listening to either the students or the staff in terms of what are the problems in your class. The problem is never the tech. You're going to hear people say, my students are sleeping in class, they're not engaged, they struggled on a CEX exam or whatever the case might be. The idea is to listen to the problem, go through an iterative cycle of testing, you know, for solutions, ideate, rapid design if you need to, play with technology if you need to, but the technology is the end point. Start with the context, start with the content, and then look at the pedagogy and adopt the tools at the end. We shouldn't start with tools.
Thanks so much. You know, I'd love to just follow up a little bit on what you've said, and maybe you can make a couple comments about it, and then maybe I could ask also Dr. Selsowit to comment on it from a biodesign standpoint. But this temptation to go immediately to solution, being enamored by the technology, or just we don't have time to explore the problems very deeply. How do you encourage people to not jump to solutions, and then I'm going to ask Dr. Selsowit to answer that as well from a biodesign standpoint.
So it's never about the tools. I think we need to be taking a capabilities or skills approach. In 5 to 10 years' time, the tools are going to disappear. What we need to be teaching are the skills, critical thinking, ethical reasoning, judgment. And so when we're encouraging people to use, we can encourage them to use any tool, but the idea is that the fidelity of what the outcome is going to have to remain at the core. And I think that is using design thinking as a methodology for innovation is going to give you more legs, so to speak, as opposed to adopting technologies that might not have your voice, that is not necessarily built with African voices in mind. It doesn't understand that, you know, when there's a coup in Nigeria and there's a leadership crisis, the tools, the AI tools that are not built for us are not going to understand our context. So we need to be building tools that is about us, for us, with us, not for us. So yeah, that's where I think we're sitting.
And I'm going to just pull on that thread around, you mentioned design thinking. And Dr. Salswood, I would love you to comment a little bit, maybe talk a little bit about the East Africa biodesign process as a framework for how you pipeline innovation. And then what I'd love you to also touch on is maybe when you've done customer discovery, maybe talk about when there was a surprising outcome to that. Love to hear a couple things.
Thanks. Well, so we suffered through that, yeah. And just to give, to start off, I want to make the distinction. There are two things, like there's an implementation science and then there's biodesign, which I will explain. So implementation science is like the first thing that comes is the technology, and then now we're looking for where to put that technology to make it into use. That's like, okay, we have the technology, where do we use it? And in biodesign approach, that's more like, okay, what problem are we solving? So it completely distinguishes it in a way that what we're talking about is like, what is the need first before we even have a solution? So how we started out, especially in the biodesign program, is there's needs finding first. So we had to go into the clinics, immerse ourselves, be like a ghost, and just document all the issues we think that we're seeing, and then we're gonna screen those, and then we identified over like 500 problems in a department. And then we joke them down and screen them. It's very technical and objective and how that's done. And then it's very tempting because we're human, and obviously when you see a problem, we want to solve it. That's very human. So it's very tempting to say like, oh, this could be, I know a solution that could fit for this. But then we were restrained not to think about solutions for months and months till we're addicted to the problem and we know the problem to the core. So that kind of guides us because as innovators, also innovators in the room, we have like bunks of solutions in our head that like AI is one, or there's something else that we think of. There's so many solutions, but then what we will be solving is for that specific need. So the more we understand the need, the more we can collect those solutions to chain them into creating a product or a solution that fits to meet that need, which now makes a better sense. But if you're like not resisting that urge to solve something, then you will create the perfect solution for a problem that doesn't exist. Yeah.
And what resulted from a lot of your studies and work in biodesign was Inoheza, which is a company that came from that. Say a little bit about, because that company lives sort of at that convergence of clinical medicine, entrepreneurship. Tell us a little bit about it. And
well, yeah, like the program itself is a team of biomedical engineers and doctors coming together to come up with meeting a need. We don't say like a technology or to develop solutions. So, HESA is now a spin-off company from UJH's East African Biodesign program. So like our first flagship project continued from the program. After identifying all those needs, we ended up coping up one need. So we ended up with one need. To meet that need, then we started brainstorming and had a solution for that one need. At first, when the need is maternal hemorrhage or maternal bleeding after childbirth, so that's a great need. Like 80% of our mothers die from that. So that's very fun to solve for. But then as we go to the clinicians, go to the nurses and the administrations to talk about, okay, what do you need for this to be solved? And then we had an idea of like, oh, uterine suction is kind of trending now, so like, why not make that? In fact, we're gonna give them a suction machine, a suction tube, everything, the whole package. And then when we went and talked to them, they told us, oh, by the way, our suctions are pretty well working. Like, you don't need our suction. We just need something that fits to all types of suction we have, because we purchase different types of suctions from different companies. So we would want the suction tip to fit into different types of suction. And then the tube itself, it needs to be very easy to use, very simple. It's an emergency. Nobody has time to open bags and assemble things. So we were surprised, but then we were also tempted, like, are you sure you don't want this? Because we want to put that solution in our product. So are you sure you don't need a suction with the tube? No. They were like, no, we just need the tube maybe, and maybe very simple, nothing with assembly. So we ending up now with just a simple tube that does the suction, and the product ended up being that because that's what's needed. And then that's where we're stuck in now. So now we're currently in manufacturing, and hopefully we'll get regulatory clearance to put it in market. Thanks.
Amazing. So we've talked now about a little bit about customer discovery, about needs assessments, about not getting distracted by technology or getting too fixated on solutions until you understand the problem and that investment. Sort of Albert Einstein at one point said, you should spend 95% of your time on problem identification, 5% of your time solving it. We're now sort of, let's just shift a little bit to stage 3, and I'm going to look over to you, Dr. Chanel. Novartis works probably in some of the most complex regulatory environments worldwide, including the African context. And so my question for you is about change and about adoption. So when you have a really good product, you have a really good idea, what is institutional buy-in? What does that look like? What does change agency look like to you? And what's the strategy to get widespread adoption of a life-saving technology?
Okay, thanks, Peter, for the question. So when we talk about institutional adoption, I think it's important, like you said, to first understand the barriers, right? One of the biggest misconceptions is that institutions resist change because they don't believe in it, but that's really not true. More often, adoption encounters resistance because people are being asked to change systems, workflows, teaching, and assessment approaches that are already operating under significant resource and capacity constraints. So sometimes the barriers are usually not technological, but they are human or organizational. So when we think about introducing a new solution or a new tool, we need to consider the following to overcome certain barriers. So for example, faculty need the confidence, the skills, and training to effectively use new solutions. Leaders need evidence that the solution aligns with institutional priorities. Regulatory bodies need assurance that quality and standards will be maintained and adhered to. And more importantly, users need to see how the innovation solves a real problem that they experience every day. So in summary, when looking at adoption, when people clearly see how a solution benefits them and an organization, adoption becomes significantly smoother and more sustainable. But now to answer your second question in terms of effective change agency. So effective change agency starts with co-creation rather than implementation. The institutions that succeed engage students, faculty, administrators, and policymakers at an early stage. They also speak to the end users and target audience, so in this case, the students or the learners, to understand their needs so that the solution is built with them, for them, and that's to echo Simone's comments. Change becomes sustainable when people feel they are shaping the transformation rather than having it imposed on them. And from your presentation, we can see that the students and learners today are well equipped to be part of that conversation. And at Novartis, we've also learned that a sustainable partnership and successful collaboration happens when innovation is paired with capability building, and also that there's commitment from leadership and a clear pathway for long-term ownership. So just to end off, we also need to keep in mind that technology may catalyze change, but it is the people who sustain it.
I love the answer, and I'm going to ask Dr. Fakadu to maybe comment a little bit as well on, you've worked in large health systems, your current role is in leadership around health systems. You've run a very large hospital itself through change. So my question to you is, what does an institution look like that's ready for transformation? What are the characteristics, and what are your thoughts around that?
Okay, thank you. So let me introduce my institution first. I'm from Armor Hansen Research Institute, biomedical research institute for government of Ethiopia. It was established in memory of Dr. Frederick Armor Hansen, a Norwegian physician who identified Microbacterium leprae, the cause of leprosy. Currently, it is mandated with, this institution is mandated with biomedical research, vaccine and diagnostic development, and pharmaceutical research. So, I came here today because I'm also coordinating the Grand Challenge Ethiopia, which is the innovation initiative of Ministry of Health, hosted by Armor Hansen, funding innovations at seed, transition to scale, and validation test scales. So coming to the organization, what organization should look like in order to sustainably implement medical innovation, particularly, and any innovation in general. I think most of the time we look at the, the hardware level issues, like we procured the softwares, we procured the equipment, and we have maybe champions, but we don't go deep into looking into the, what the readiness at the whole organization level is. So we need to have, the governance that sustain beyond the champions. Sometimes a specific innovator or the CEO might bring the idea to be implemented, but the moment that person moves, that innovation collapses. And in order to prevent it to die at the pilot stage, which is called the pilotitis, they give it the term pilotitis, the days of innovation at the pilot stage, we also need to, include the recurrent costs into the budget line, and need to identify that at the beginning of, the implementation of the innovation. We have to see whether that innovation is adding additional burden to the staff which is already overloaded, the medical educators which are already overloaded, so they don't buy it if it is add some time to data entry and other activities. We also need to align it with the incentive. In addition to bringing clinical efficiency, it should also be linked to academic promotion for the medical educators. And finally, to enhance its implementation and force behavioral change. That is also linked to the change agents question you have already asked. We have to link it to also, the assessment, competency assessment of the medical student as well as the teacher, so that it will be assessed and people will comply with its implementation. So these are, I think, some of the issues the organization should look at prior to implementing medical innovation. Thank you.
Thank you. I liked your comment about, it rings true to me, when you enter a pilot, and how do you go beyond the pilot phase and not let it sort of die following a pilot, and those early investments in that sustainable change over time. In the interest of time, I'm going to ask the whole panel to answer a question, so I'll have us all think together about something. So my question is, if we take a transformative technology like One Space Africa that we just heard about, and let's imagine 5 years from now, the COMSA community has built One Space Africa into what Liliane has visioned today and what we heard about. I'd love to hear from each of you your thought on what would be the major change or contribution that a transformative technology like that would have made in the way that we train, support our clinicians of the future. And Professor Simone, I'd love you to start.
Yeah, I think that one thing I like is that the technology like One Space, it's emerging from our own realities. and not imposing the technology sort of on our realities. But at the same time, I do have a tension because what are our priorities? Prof. Abikeli spoke about the fact that only 1 in 4 of our African schools, medical schools, have LMSs. And so, you know, what is our core priority? I mean, we still have kids using pit toilets. So are we putting the technology first, or, you know, are we putting the human-centeredness of, you know, service delivery ahead of the technology? But look, that's the tension that I have in my head. But I think what this technology is able to do, I think it will move us from just the technology and artificial intelligence to what I call fluid intelligence. And in medical education, it might be called adaptive expertise. The idea that students can probably then move from, you know, being able to reason and question in times of uncertainty, not knowing what they're going to encounter in the real world. But I think the technology is going to be able to mediate some of those encounters before they actually experience it within the space. So I do think that it holds a lot of potential to develop fluid intelligence with our staff and students as well. Okay.
Well, as I'm here representing biodesign, this is what we call tech push and not need driven. So I think from my learning personally, it's better to see like the bigger picture of the whole problem instead of like identifying a solution to integrate it in an ecosystem, because there is also another side of the story called implementation. So if you want to develop a technology that's worth the implementation, because healthcare is pretty complex to put any system integrated. So if you want to develop a solution that's implementable or what that's worthy of implementation, it's much worth it to invest your time in understanding the ecosystem, the stakeholders, who pays for what's the market, like who's incentivized to do what, how easy is it, do the clients or do the customers or the clinicians care about it? Is it adding more work on them, or is it like decreasing more work? So these calculations should happen, and it's very objective, and it's very, you can narrow it down into that probability, like this is what they need, because they will tell you, and it requires a lot of listening, a lot of learning mindset, like a lot of reception instead of pushing the technology, because we don't have any shortage of technology. We have plenty of technology to push, but it's about which technology and how. So that can only be answered by what need you want to solve. So that's what I want to emphasize as a biodesign.
Really glad you
Thanks.
mentioned it. Dr. Snow.
Okay, thanks. I think I'd like to answer this question, being a learner once and a lecturer also before my current role. I was very impressed with the demo session and setting exam questions, and I might even consider going back to lecturing now. But I think that the most transformative change will be increased access to good and high quality medical education. I think the One Space Africa has the ability to create a truly connected African learning ecosystem where knowledge, expertise, and educational opportunities are no longer limited by geography or institutional resources. And so I think that it will not just only transform how clinicians learn, but it will also strengthen the future healthcare workforce of the continent.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So I think beyond this kind of educational innovation, any innovation can have we have to contextualize the returns, the outcomes we expected of that innovation. In countries in Africa and the low-income countries like this, we sometimes take afraid of the risk of startup cost, but we will it will not give us the compounding impact for the coming years. So it will reduce, for example, it will reduce the time to competence. If we reduce the time to competence, and compress that time, we will get more professionals to be deployed in the rural areas. And the deployment of these professionals will also, reduce the gap in equity of access to quality health care. And if some innovation works for example, in Ethiopia, in Addis Ababa University, and that the same innovation can work in university in Gambela, to contextualize it, or in Benishangul in Ethiopia, which are the rural areas, at the same time, it will, reduce the quality gap and availability of quality, competent professionals at the periphery level. But as already mentioned in the morning presentations, there are a lot of literatures indicating the economic return, the clinical outcome returns, the health system returns, in strengthening the health system, in achieving universal health coverage, in boosting the sustainable development goals, and so health workforce return, particularly in retaining the health workforce in their places, in the peripheral, in the rural areas. And the only one threat to this kind of training is, brain drain. If we don't work in parallel with solving the problem, the underlying socioeconomic issues that resulted in brain drain, in pushing those high caliber professionals to migrate. And if you don't provide them attractive remunerations and career ladders, I think that will be the main challenge remaining. Thank you.
Thanks so much. I want to thank our panelists for a wonderful conversation. And I just want to leave us with just two thoughts from the session, in listening to some of these responses. One of them is, I hope that what you're taking away is how process-driven innovation can be, and that it's not necessarily a random process, and that you should find some peace in that and some sort of excitement and security in that there are stepwise approaches to how we think about transformative technology and how we might enact it and bring it to the bedside and into the classroom. So that's number one, is just some of the processes I hope people are taking away. And then the other that I'm feeling from the conversation is that I've been so impressed with how technology itself is a social object, that just the technology existing forces us into rooms to have conversations and to have us rethink and revisit how we do what we do, our processes, our approaches, all of it. And the technology just becomes a motivator of those conversations. So I leave you with that, and I encourage the conversation to continue into the sessions throughout the day. And thanks for your attendance. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Thank you, Dr. Weinstock, and for all of our panelists and all our presenters. That was wonderful. So that concludes our morning plenary. We have a number of things for you to do over the next 45 minutes. So there are a couple announcements. One, we have a lot of exhibitors out there. Please take an opportunity to visit the exhibition booths. I believe there will be a tea break, but it is not going to be set up for another 10 or 15 minutes, is what I've been told. So visit your exhibitors, tea break, and then we'll begin our breakouts at 10:30. They'll be from 10:30 to noon, and they are in your program. Some of them are over here, some of them are in the building across the parking lot. There are also some abstracts set up in the hallway across the parking lot in that other building as well. So thank you all for your attention, and we'll see you at 10:30 for the breakout groups.
Are you the first one?
Yes.
Thank you. Hi. Well, I can confirm for myself and one that is wait.
But in total, you're six.
Yes, yes, yes, yes.
Okay. Uh, extend, True.
Why?
Miki, anlatalım.
It's extending though. Okay.
Okay. Huh?
Yeah, it's not.
Mouzu kumbi growth kolay.
Is that?
Comfortable yakın.
Display. Hi, thank you. Yes, it's extended, right? But I should choose. Can you share the entire screen this thing? It's not responding. Yeah, like it's not responding.
No, it's good. You can see it.
Okay.
We'll display it later. We'll display it later. No,
Oh,
no
okay.
problem.
Okay, so it's supposed to be here?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Just
okay.
show me what you're going to show. This is the one you're.
Yes, this is the one I'll show.
Okay.
All right.
Let's unplug it and try it again.
Okay. All right. Okay. Voila. Okay.
Good.
Okay. Yeah. Good. Yeah. Yes. Sir. Yeah, so how about speak out or what? Speak out. Yeah, but will you be able to talk? Like,
Oh,
yeah,
does it have a sound?
yeah, yes, it has a sound. So I need to connect to the sound.
Miki?
Mhm.
Them sorry, love me, the phone I got. I'll have to, could you,
Start the sound. Okay.
uh,
Okay. Now going to the sound. Yeah. Yeah.
Picking up on the overview of the equation, we recall one key factor that drives the transformation from cells to organoids.
Hi. Hello. Start again. Okay. Okay. I'm coming to start again. Can we?
Mommy, and the sound of Radland. Is one of you presenting?
Yeah, I'm the one presenting.
Any, do you have slides?
Yeah, the slide is going to be projected from there.
This is front, this is back.
Okay.
And this is a
Yeah.
pointer if you need a pointer.
Okay. Okay, so when going to the next slide, use this previous. Okay.
Could you try this on again?
Okay.
Welcome back.
Okay. Yeah, that's what.
We are reviewing the overview of the equation. We're focusing on the overview.
Okay. Yeah, this one reduces it. I think this one is in the, I think the output is 3D TV, so I think the reduction is to come from your end.
But you have to. It's coming maximum audio. Look at this.
Yeah, I can't mute it.
I cannot touch them, Miki. Could you try it again?
Okay.
Welcome. No worries. Let's clarify. Can you describe it? No problem.
You're good.
Okay, sure. That's fine. So I can leave it here, right? So that.
Right. Let's try one more time.
Okay.
When you unplug this, if
Alright.
it changes.
Okay. Okay, that's fine.
Now try the sound.
We're focusing
Yes, let's go.
One key change. That's okay. Let's break it down. Okay.
Sure. Okay, so we can leave it here anyway, so it's fine. Okay, sure. So yeah, it should be here. Yeah, sure. I trust you.
Surgical management, consultations, and follow-up. Interest is accessible globally through bidirectional partnerships.
looks different. I guess this is forward.
Yeah.
This is backwards. No laser.
So forward,
This one.
this is forward, the big
Yeah.
one.
Big one, yeah.
Then,
That is backward. See the arrow?
yes, it's
No.
round.
That's just the thing that you click here. You have a laser effect.
Ah, we're going to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they have one that's great, although I'd say it gets a little hard to like, I think for the people at the end, like for the panelists,
Yeah.
I don't know, it gets a little, I mean, I see it's like optimized for the speaker, but it gets actually hard because there's no other screen for the,
Oh, you can sit at the end and see how that looks like.
sticks are here, how it's like,
I have not seen that movie. Have you seen that Hill?
the woman in the back in the black next to the sola, if there's only gonna be five, then she wanted to pass it all.
Sure.
Ah,
Okay, think I'm gonna go,
no, from the registration desk, if it is something. No,
Okay.
but also the registration team would know if she registered and can
like,
yeah.
yeah, I think I'm gonna go check.
ምን ላይ ነው ኢንፑቱ ያለው? ለታ እንዲህ አድርጌ ፓወርፖይንቱ አንድ ነው አይደል? ከዛ ያኛውን ፒሲ ምን ታደርጋለህ? እዛኛው ፒሲ ቤስ ፊልድ ማለት እዚህ ላይ ካለ ከዛ በምን ባክግራውንድ ነው ጥቁር በጥቁር ባክግራውንድ ነው ምክንያቱም በነጭ አይደለ ታዲያ ገባ ብሩማኪያ Numai iargă fac rău la repetare și o pare acolo. Nu. De la de să rămas.
Está a voz da produção.
Agora deixa eu fazer não assim. Yeah, é bem isso. É.
Start as a gaji bana. İlerledim. Benim.
if we can quicken our footsteps and take our seats. So we would like to welcome you to this very interesting session, rapid fire on, continuing with the morning discussion on how to use transformative approaches, innovations and transformation technology in what we do. I'm Professor Annette Nachimuli. I'll be moderating the session together with Professor Thomas. I'm Dean School of Medicine at Makerere University in Uganda. I'm an obstetrician and gynecologist, and we're usually very patient people. But we kindly ask that even with our patience, we start and be able to really enjoy the session. So our panelists are already here, all ready for you. You've been hearing since the other day when the deans met, yesterday, today, and even before, how the world is fast changing in terms of medical education or health professions education. We continue to grapple with big numbers of trainees. We continue to have acute shortages of the teachers. We continue to have a lot of pressures to take on more students and without compromising the quality. But sometimes this sounds like a very difficult task to achieve. But we're saying we can't keep worrying about this problem. We need to find solutions. And actually, there are many people on the continent who are working around the clock to try and see how we can use innovations and technology to do our work better. To do our work better, but also to be able to train the kind of people who are entering our medical school in the way that they know how to be trained. You keep hearing the Gen Zs, but we can't wait. They're already ahead of us. You've seen that many of them are already using, for example, artificial intelligence. I saw 75%. But when you ask the teachers, how many of them are up to the task of trying some few AI tools, then you realize it's really a big discrepancy. So we have with us 4 speakers, and I'll just quickly introduce them. But before I do, I'd just like to say that the 4 people we have going to speak to us are really coming from all over Africa, which is very much the spirit of COMSA. It's very Pan-African, it's very much collaborative, and we are really wanting to keep the momentum going forward. So before we really invite the speakers, I would like to call upon my co-moderator, Professor Thomas, to come and further set the stage for our speakers. Thank you all for coming to the session, and just be ready to enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dean Nakimuli. Good morning, everybody. My name is Thomas Thiessen. I'm a medical educator at Aga Khan University in Nairobi and at Geisel School of Medicine at Dartmouth in the US. And it's really great here to have everybody and seeing these really engaging discussions about technology and the potential of AI to really transform healthcare education. So we heard today in the plenary already that there's tremendous potential to really improve the learning, right? So far, our training capabilities have been capped by the numbers of students we could reach at any given time within every institution's resource limitations. And the 4 talks today actually are pushing this a little bit, and they're really work is really done from the ground up. So we hear today about a tutor that is available around the clock. There's assessment that can travel from one site to the next. And we also hear about ultrasound teaching at a rural bedside. So all of that is really important and can really increase kind of the reach of every individual educator, every institutional educational program. So so as that, it's really great to welcome all these talented speakers. The first speaker is Dr. Ernest Adai. He's a lecturer in the Department of Pathology at the School of Medical Sciences at the University of Cape Coast in Ghana, and he holds a PhD in molecular medicine from the National University of Singapore. He leads the development of peer tutor AI, which is a curriculum that's grounded in retrieval augmented generation that draws information from pre-selected sources, built especially for African medical and health sciences students. And TEOP Exam, which is an examination platform deployed across several tertiary institutions already in Ghana. So his work is really driven by a conviction that Africa's faculty to student gap can only be closed through technology built on the continent, a conviction that has led him to develop further tools, including PremioQuest and Meducative. So it's really great to see a very productive and innovative technology healthcare educator. So I'll with further ado, Dr. Adai.
Good morning, everyone. And I might say it's been an honor to be here in this great conference. But before I begin, I would like to acknowledge three important people. The first one is Professor Yvonne De Edumakon, who suggested that we submit our concept note for this program. And secondly, to the two professors in my department, Professor Leonard De Chikwatin and then Professor Patrick Kafui Akapo. They allow me to do my work as a lecturer, but at the same time dabbling in medical education. So I've been a medical educator for over 13 years. And because of that, you tend to do a lot of experiments with your students because you tend to understand the problems a lot. And coupled with that, I have a very extensive background in software engineering since 2011. So you see, when you get the idea, you want to experiment and see how it can help your students. So in addition to that, I built TOB Exam. TOB Exam is a platform for institutions that allow them to generate assessment that really test the ability of students understanding rather than just using test cues. In addition to that, I built PremioQuest. PremioQuest is just an assessment tool for students to get their own question. And then I built Meducative. Meducative is an exam administration platform. And what it does is that it has a very sophisticated anti-cheating mechanism so that wherever your students are, they can take examination. But I'm not here purposely for how ardent I am in assessment. Rather, I'm here to talk about quality tuition. So I would like to say, first and foremost, that yesterday, since we started this program, a recurring theme has been coming, and that theme has always been about the idea that we need to train more medical doctors. But we also forget that in addition to that, we are shortage in terms of faculty, and as most of you are here, probably you have lectures and you can't attend the lecture because you are attending this program, among other things. Not to talk with the fact that our enrollment is increasing significantly, and the lecturer student interaction is also diminishing at a point. And this is what has led me to develop Petuta AI. So Petuta AI is a platform that allows lecturers to build AI teaching assistants for their students. The core mandate around Petuta AI is the fact that one lecturer can attend to several students at a time. And the beauty of Petuta AI is that the information your teaching assistant gets is grounded in your curriculum and then in the pedagogy. So without further ado, I would like to show you the 4 steps of how Petuta AI works. Can we have that? Oh, yes, sure. Sorry. If okay, now I get it. Okay, so Pachita AI works in 4 steps. The first one is we allow institutions to bring their own AI model of choice. So when I say AI model of choice, if your institution is interested in Claude, Gemini, several of the open AI tools, in addition to your own internally developed large language models, we allow you to bring it on board as the engine that powers your AI tutor. And it's institution agnostic in the sense every institution can have their own instance of AI independent of the broader platform on its own. So once you can have your own institution, your own AI model, the next thing is we allow you to upload as many teaching materials as much as possible. We accept videos, audios, PDF documents, scanned documents. We take as much as we can and we attempt to organize and index the material for you. This becomes the knowledge base of your AI teaching assistant. So in this case, the AI model that you use becomes the engine that powers your teaching materials. Once you have done that, we allow you to create your teaching AI assistant. And in this case, you can customize your teaching assistant to really reflect your approach to teaching. So if you're a lecturer who enjoys the Socratic approach to teaching, you can customize your AI tutor to use the Socratic approach. If you are someone who prefers to give direct answers to your students, you can allow it to do that. We also have a component whereby you can clone your voice as you want it to be so that student can have a feel of who their lecturer is. And we accept all that. And then once your tutor is ready, you hand it over to your students. So your students interact with the AI tutor. The beauty is that as your student interacts with your AI tutor at the background actually tracks the sentiment of your student whilst they are interacting with your AI tutor. In addition to that, your tutor AI will be able to flag the students that are struggling in that specific subject area. So when you go to the inside dashboard, we just show you that of the 700 students you have in your class, these are the students that are struggling. And the system allows you to contact them directly to host office hours. In this case, the office hours become subjective because before the student comes to you, you know the exact problem they are facing in your course. Of course, we are scientists, and as such, we need evidence to back everything that we've said. So personally, I use PeTutor for my class. I teach a large class from medical to pharmacy students every single year because most of the time I handle the pathology courses as far as basic sciences is concerned. So this is one of the examples for about 120 pharmacy students that use PeTutor AI for a period of 12 weeks. So at the end of the 12 weeks, the evidence can be categorized into 3 layers. The first one is the acceptance. It turns out that over 80% of our students actually accepted to use PeTutor AI. Of course, it makes sense. Students are more inclined to listen to their own lecturer, teach them rather than get the information elsewhere. In addition to that, of the students that were enrolled on the PeTutor AI platform, about 95% of them use the AI tool weekly. And this result is consistent among the student cohort of 120 students. The second thing is the effectiveness of the platform. Based on our survey, we realized that most of the students says that it beats the textbook because of the approach we use in designing the AI tutor. It feels like a teacher standing in front of you, and then you are learning from that teacher. Secondly, some of my students claim that it does better job than some of the lecturers in the institution, which is something we need to look at and then see how best we can enhance on that. Of course, it makes sense. AI has not got personal problems. Human beings have personal problems, and depending on your mood in that day, it affects your delivery. Also, in addition to that, most of my students claim that PeTutor AI is their top pick among all the AI tools that are available, i.e. ChatGPT, Notebook LM, among several others. And now to the third one is outcome. So one observation I made is that for my students who use AI tutor, PeTutor AI, that is AI clones built by myself, And then those who don't use it, there was a dramatic improvement in their grade, as in from 70% to 96% in grade improvement, which is quite impressive. But currently, one of the research I'm doing is the engagement of my students with the Petuta AI actually translate to the academic performance. And as I'm speaking to you now, that is the current research currently ongoing in my institution. And I hope that the next time here I'll be able to present the result to you, because what's the point of using an AI tutor if it cannot help you work? So my vision vision for Petuta AI basically is that we will have a tutor that knows the curriculum so well, that is built by you, and also it should be able to speak in the context that we understand, not to talk about the fact that this AI tutor is available to you 24/7 as far as your students are concerned. And in fact, this is the first of uh, this kind of research that has been done in Africa, to the best of my knowledge, whereby we've used an entire semester course to actually assess how students interact with lecturers, teaching assistants. So, of course, for like every project, although Petita AI is deployed in several institutions, what I'm here for is to look for collaborative partners, founders, on how we can scale and then pilot this in your institution so that we can have a big amount of data to be able to reflect whether AI is really changing our lives or not. Not to talk about the fact that faculty adoption to artificial intelligence is very important, because without faculty championing it, AI is useless, and our end users, which is our students, won't get the benefit of it. So this is the QR code. You can scan it and let me know what you think and how you can be an excellent collaborator. So I would like to pause here and then show you a quick demo, just an overview of how the Petuta AI platform works. Can you help me connect the laptop to the platform? Of course, the downside of technology. Not connecting. Okay. So the overview of Petita AI, we allow the lecturers to create several tutors within the course that they are teaching. So for instance, this is one of the classic courses that I teach at the medical school. This is pathology basis of disease, human pathology. So as you can see, when you open it, all the AI tutors I've created for my students, each of them tackling a very specific topic or chapter of pathology basis of disease in Robbins. So once we are ready, the student comes on the platform and then look at the tutor they are interested in. So in this case, if the student is interested in cell injury and cell death, they click on it. And the beauty of Petuta is that every material you upload, we index and archive it for you and organize it in modular form so that the student can have a progressive learning session. Also, in addition to that, every image that is in the material you uploaded is going to be extracted and used as reference point with the conversation. So once a student is ready, they click on Start Learning Session. And in the Start Learning Session, they can choose which teaching approach that is available for them to learn from. So this case, one of the challenges of AI is the fact that most of the time, it waits for you to ask a question before it gives you an answer. But Petuta AI takes a different approach, whereby it starts by looking at the topic from the modules and start teaching the student, and then ask a follow-up question so that the student will be able to understand better. In addition to that, you can have a direct text input and text output. You can give voice input and get voice output. And then you can do the live session as well.
Well, sure. Let's stick to the overview of cellular responses to stress and injury. Can you recall one example of reversible cell injury?
Yeah, so as you can see, these are some of the nuances. It attempts, it looks at the environment and then tries. So if I want to understand something like what makes irreversible cell injury different from reversible cell injury?
So reversible cell injury is when the cell can recover once the stressor is removed, like swelling or fat change. Irreversible injury involves damage that leads to cell death, such as necrosis or apoptosis. What's an example of a condition where apoptosis is the predominant mechanism?
So you can go on and have conversation with it. And as the student interacts, the conversation and transcripts are listed over here. And this is how Petuta AI works. And I look forward to collaborating to most of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ernest Ada. I think that was just a snippet of what he really does. And please keep your questions. We shall have a moment to respond to them, but also will be available for interaction thereafter. So I would like to introduce our next speaker. It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Kara Libat, who is a clinical assistant professor in the Department of Surgery at Stanford University, where she serves as Associate Chair of Education and Associate Program Director for the General Surgery Residency Program. She's a board-certified general surgeon with fellowship training in advanced GI minimally invasive surgery. Dr. Libat completed medical school, general surgery, and surgical education fellowship training at Stanford University. Her academic work focuses on global surgical education, education innovation, competence-based medical education, and assessment. In partnership with the College of Surgeons of East Central and Southern Africa, COSEXA, and University of Global Health Equity in Rwanda, Dr. Libat and colleagues co-developed the Entrust platform, an online accessible virtual patient simulation to assess clinical decision-making. Entrust has been implemented for learning and assessment in partnership across Africa, including COSEXA, University of Global Health Equity in Rwanda, and Azema Al-Azhari University in Sudan, and Gaston Berger University in Senegal. Ladies and gentlemen, join me to welcome a very seasoned medical educator, Dr. Clara Libat. Thank you.
All right, good morning. So it's my pleasure to be able to speak to you today about our work within Trust. And so first, just to start, that this has been a project of co-development. And starting in 2021, this collaboration began as a partnership with COSEXA and then has since grown to partnerships with UGHE, with AAU, with Gaston Berger, and with many of those champions who are here in the room and who are members and delegates today. So this has really been a collaboration between Stanford and the continent of Africa, and really based in the mission that there's a global need for accessible, objective, and evidence-based tools to support competency-based medical education, and that are in the context of the continent. There's a video demo here that will give an overview of Entrust. It's a learning and assessment platform that has both a learner-facing side and a faculty author-facing side. And so I'll now play the video and let you listen.
Entrust has three key components: gameplay, action-reported analysis, and case authoring. Gameplay is split into simulation and question phases. The simulation phase includes history review and assessment, workup, and procedures if necessary. Questions can be multiple choice or free response and can cover diagnosis, workup, surgical management, complications, and follow-up. Entrust is accessible globally through bidirectional partnerships, starting with new organization account creation. Partners then receive onboarding on case creation and analysis tools prior to case development and case library expansion. The Entrust team is available to assist in development planning, for and utilizes feedback to direct software development and improvements. Collaborators can choose the level of involvement and have the option to run their account independently if preferred. Entrust has 30 organization accounts with partners in 25 countries across the globe and is being utilized at all levels of medical education. This includes nursing, newborn unit staff, medical school, residency training, and high-stakes examinations for resident trainees. It is also utilized across many subspecialties, such as general surgery, pediatric surgery, OBGYN, and more. The learning platform is the front-facing side of Entrust, where trainees log in to work on cases of all types, learning modules, practice tests, or high-stakes examinations. The learning platform is compatible with most devices to expand trainee access, and the user interface can be adjusted to suit the trainee's preferences by zooming in and out. We have also added French and Spanish language translation to accommodate multilingual organizations and regions. When users log in, they are presented with an optional tutorial aimed to improve the trainee onboarding experience, walking them through standard case navigation. Simulation phases can be set in the clinic or hospital settings, such as the emergency department. The clinic setting allows for the trainee to order labs and imaging. However, when results are requested, a new visit starts to simulate a realistic wait time. The emergency department or hospital setting has a dynamic vital signs monitor and customized wait times for orders to result. For this demonstration, we will be using a case from the emergency department. During the simulation phase, trainees are required to examine and work up the patient. At the start of the simulation phase, the trainee can review the history of present illness in the clipboard on the right. Trainees can assess vital signs on the monitor and track changes over time in the vital signs tab of the chart. Physical exams can be performed by clicking on the body part that the trainee would like to examine. The findings of the physical exam will be displayed below the patient image and can be reviewed in the clipboard later. Trainees can use investigative orders and provide non-surgical interventions to stabilize and prepare the patient for their required disposition. Their workup should be comprehensive but intentional. Orders are placed by interacting with the central computer by navigating the categorical sections. When orders are submitted, there is an associated wait time to simulate real-world wait times. Once the order is finished processing, the results will appear in the clipboard. The patient can exhibit dynamic vital sign changes in response to interventions, along with changes in facial expression if their condition declines. With some interventions, the relevant asset will appear in the patient area to provide visual cues for the trainees. The trainee's workup should lead them to a suspected diagnosis and disposition. The trainee selects their anticipated disposition at the bottom of the computer screen. Questions can be multiple choice or free response and can cover diagnosis, workup, surgical management, complications, and follow-up. They can be presented alongside multiple settings, including the clinic, emergency department, ward, pediatric and adult ICU, and operating room. There are 3 modes available for the question phases: tutor, practice, and examination. In both of the learning modes, the answers and explanations for the correct and incorrect answer choices are shown, and a sample correct answer is shown for the free response questions. Tutoring mode presents explanations and references instantly after answering a question, for the most immediate feedback on the concept. Practice mode displays explanations and references at the end of the question phase to minimize flow disruptions. A reference can be provided for further reading in both learning modes. In exam mode, correct answers, explanations, and references are not provided. After the learner has completed the question phases, if enabled, they will be presented with a score report. The score report gives subscores and time taken for each phase to allow for performance review, or can provide individual and overall case scores if multiple cases are included. Authors can also upload supplemental resources, which can provide additional educational content on differential diagnoses, variations in presentations, workup, and treatment options. Entrust has also developed a fault-tolerant design which logs all player actions occurring online and offline. This enables examinations to continue when internet bandwidth is limited or connectivity lost. This function is particularly relevant and useful in settings where variability in resources may hinder assessments. Once trainees have made case attempts, either in a learning or examination mode, teachers can review their decision-making using 2 analytic tools.
The first allows them to run a query on the actions and case summary logs in the Entrust database and download the results as spreadsheets. This allows partners to track case completion and scores by specialty, program, or trainee. A classroom analysis tool can be used to visualize and map aggregate performance data in detailed or high-level views. Histograms and scatter plots show cumulative scores and action counts, allowing for a high-level performance analysis and assistance in identifying outliers. Cumulative scores are determined by positive points for correct and relevant actions, and negative points for excessive, harmful, or unnecessary actions. Setting up appropriate scoring results in concise and effective learners receiving the best overall scores, while wasteful trainees are penalized for incorrect decisions. The case sequence diagram shows the timestamp of each action, allowing teachers to review the decision-making process and inspect if learners are following the appropriate sequence of patient workup and intervention. Each data point represents an action or event in the progression of the case attempt and can be clicked on for a closer inspection. The data point's shape and color indicates its category, and their outline color indicates correctness. The shaded green section represents the time spent in the simulation phase, and the blue section represents time in the question phases. The category charts show a higher level view, with each bar representing how many trainees performed each action in at least one attempt. This allows teachers to identify and address gaps in knowledge or management of a disease process, and easily understand whether their class is on the right track. Teachers can also review the selected answers from the question phases and facilitate discussion around the rationale for the correct and most common answer choices. Overall, the classroom tool makes tracking trainees' progress more intuitive and comprehensible than having to review raw data. When creating a case, authors can use an AI assistant to expedite creation or modification. To start developing a case, a prompt about the patient's diagnosis is entered. First section generated includes the case settings, history of present illness, patient image, vitals, physical exam, and disposition. The case settings allow you to select case type and question mode, enable the score report, and set time limits. The assistant will have filled in a potential history of present illness, along with the simulation phase location. A broad range of patient images enables representation of diverse populations and clinical presentations. Setting vitals includes entering the starting vitals and selecting an algorithm for vital progression over time to match the diagnosis. Some existing algorithms include stable vitals, isolated tachycardia, sepsis, and hemorrhagic shock. The AI assistant automatically populates diagnosis-specific physical exam components based on the case prompt. Edits can be made as needed, and pictures of physical exam findings can be uploaded. A subset of dispositions can be shown to only provide relevant options to the trainee for each case. The next steps are to add orders and questions. These steps can be performed manually or with the AI assistant. Orders are imported into each case from the organization's customized order library and are modified to fit the patient diagnosis, including lab abnormalities and written or radiographic imaging results. Question development can be guided using the AI assistant based on the trainee level. Once information is prepared by the assistant, the author can review the suggestions and edit or deselect them as warranted. Authors can customize the scene presented alongside the questions in an interactive editor to match the patient's phase of care. Although AI can assist in case creation, it is still necessary for 2 attending surgeons to check all case details, as it can hallucinate information and make mistakes. After cases have been created, the author carefully reviews the details, checking accuracy of information, orders, and scoring. Then, each case is peer-reviewed by faculty subject matter experts. Next, the author and reviewers beta test the case to ensure intended gameplay. After any final adjustments are applied, the case is ready for deployment to trainees. Cases can be published individually or as groups with optional breaks to construct learning modules or examinations. We have additionally created an Entrust user guide which covers all aspects of the authoring and administration tools to facilitate onboarding new organizations and authors. Entrust aims to change the landscape of medical education with a globally accessible serious game. Thank you for watching and enjoy the platform.
And so I'm going to speak very briefly on a couple of points. One is that it is not just for surgeons. I started use with our Department of Surgery and with COSEXA, but now can support cases across all disciplines. And then it is currently in English, French, and Spanish, but we are working on, we know that the need for Arabic and Portuguese are very relevant, and so those are our next steps. I'm not going to go into detail over this, but just to showcase that we have spent a lot of time in collecting validity evidence for this in its use as an assessment, both at Stanford University with our trainees, looking at its ability to differentiate levels of trainees and levels of residents and registrars. It has been utilized also to looking at correlation to competency-based metrics, other standardized tests in surgery, our surgical case logs, and shows a strong correlation to those other metrics in competency-based medical education. It has been utilized for assessment of registrars through COSEXA and has been utilized as a pilot in 2021 and then as a formal part of the examination for the MCS level since 2022. Dr. Antana will be presenting on this later today, but this is its implementation for learning and assessment at UGHE, and so this will be in one of the breakout sessions for the scientific sessions this afternoon, and just we'll talk about the multidisciplinary and the use across the spectrum of formative and summative assessment. It has also been used for assessment of undergraduate medical education. This is work from Prof. Ahmed El Said in Sudan, and the work that he's done on comparing to other modalities of assessment. This is a video from their examination at one of their exam sites. And then more recently in West Africa and Senegal, and this is the deployment of the French platform by Dr. Abdourahmane Ndong at Gaston University. Just wanted to say a thank you. These are just some of the collaborators and champions who really have made Entrust what it is. You've been the guiding force of what is needed and how to make this what the needs are for your learners, both undergraduate medical education, graduate medical education, and for learning and assessment. And so all of the features that you saw in the video were really the ideas and the guiding suggestions of all of the champions that many of them whom are here in the room and others across the continent. So gratitude. And finally, just we want this to be a tool that's available to across the continent. So this is a QR code. If you'd like to request an account, we will confirm that you are an appropriate leader and educator at your university, but are happy to work with you to make an account and work on onboarding for anybody who's interested. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Liebert. So our third speaker is Professor Ahmed El Adib, Dean of the Mohammed VI Faculty of Medicine in Marrakesh and President of the Moroccan Society of Emergency Medicine. Dr. Abid works where assessment meets curriculum design, turning exam data into something more useful, a map of what students can actually do. He's a clinical assistant professor in the Department of Anesthesia, Critical Care and Emergency Medicine, and currently serves as the Dean of the faculty. He's also Executive Director of the AI Health and Education Committee and Chair at the University of Science and Health in Marrakesh. Additionally, he's the President of the Moroccan Society of Emergency Medicine, the educational manager of the Center for Simulation and Innovation in Health Sciences in Marrakesh, and head of the Anesthesia and Intensive Care Department in Gynecology and Obstetrics at the Mohammed VI University Hospital in Marrakesh. Please welcome Dr. El Adib.
Thank you, Thomas, for this kind presentation. Salami. Uh, I'm I'm very pleased and honored to be here to to share with you and to exchange with you and for our future. My talk is about how medical student assessment is going digital, and especially undergraduate medical student. So through my experience and our experience in Mohammed VI University of Health Science in Morocco, I will share with you the road to from exams to competence math. So 20 years ago, when I was graduated, the competence of a medical graduate was often summarized by a few isolated assessments: a written exam, a clinical examination, and one final thesis defense. These moments were expected to capture the competence of a future physician. So in other words, competence was reduced to a snapshot. But competence is no longer a single snapshot. It becomes a trajectory composed of multiple signals over time. And medicine is evolving. Modern medicine is technologically advanced, digitally connected, continuously monitored, and data rich. And yet, many of our institutions, the evolution of future physicians still relies on episodic and paper-based assessment. So how can a digital profession continue to rely on analog evaluation systems? The scientific foundation is an article published in 2011 by van der Vleuten about the concept of programmatic assessment that provides an important theoretical foundation. Instead of relying on few high-stakes examination, competence emerges from multiple low-stakes observations collected across diverse contexts, aggregated over time, and interpreted collectively. And competence is therefore constructed through the integration of multiple observations. And now with digital assessment, it fundamentally changes the nature of educational information. Digital ecosystems generate continuous educational data sets integrating signals from multiple sources. So medical education is moving from assessment events to educational data ecosystem. And we can see here, by learning analytics, digital systems generate large volumes of educational data, and learning analytics make it possible to transform these data streams into meaningful insights. We can monitor student progression over time. We can guide monitoring and remediation. We can identify early signals of difficulty and support program evaluation. And that's what we tried to do in my university. So first, my university, it's an ecosystem created by the vision of His Majesty the King Mohammed VI, a university with, there is all faculties, we are studying, all students are studying together. Medicine, dentists, pharmacists, engineers in healthcare, nurses, and all other professions in medicine. And we are gaining cities. We have 5 cities. For example, for medical schools, we have 6 medical schools, 1 Anglophone in Casablanca and Francophone, Casablanca, Rabat, Marrakesh, where I'm the dean, Agadir, and Dakhla in the Sahara. And in these cities and on all these establishments, the assessment system is the same with multiple layers, going from knowledge to AI-driven learning analytics. First, layer 1 is digital knowledge assessment. We have a platform, Evalbox. It's an international, and all our students have tablets, and the written exams are at the same time in the 5 cities, in the 6 medical schools. So we have synchronized exams, and it helps us to have structured educational data sets. Layer 2 is OSCEs. We transformed our clinical examination 4 years ago to objective structured clinical examination. And last year, we created with our engineers from the university a platform dedicated for digitizing OSCEs. So we can standardize scoring criteria, direct digital recording, real-time aggregation of results, and elimination transcription results. And you have the images of the platforms. 4-to-1 simulation through like you showed, we have platforms for virtual patients and for serious games. And we put these platforms, students can train by themselves in the learning management system, but also we use them in examination and in OSCE stations. We have high fidelity simulation. We have in Casablanca 4,000 meter square simulation center, a hospital, and we are digitalizing all debriefings. So we have also data from high fidelity simulations. Layer 3 is competence tracking. We have a platform created by our engineers about workplace-based assessment. So the students, they have their objectives, the teacher and instructor, they know the objectives, and the validation is digital, and we have the results immediately and the data immediately. And also we are finalizing e-portfolio. Until now, the pilot experience is done with the specialization with residents, and we will generalize a portfolio for all undergraduates, especially to track, to have document clinical experiences, permit to students to reflect on their learning and receiving mentor feedback. Also thesis, we have a platform for thesis, but it's not the issue. And the last thing is the coming of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence can analyze complex educational data sets to detect patterns in learner performance, identify early signals of academic difficulty, and support adaptive learning pathways. We launched this academic year in October a platform, a double platform for teachers and for students, and especially to promote responsible use of AI in education with MOOCs, with tools created by our engineers for revising, for creating MCQs, and many tools also for students and for teachers. So now with this and all, we have digital attendance verification, learn management system, we have a 360 degrees campus that enables digital learning environment and digital assessment. So with this, we are proposing, and the framework I propose, I called it a competence signal ecosystem. From all the assessment tools and digital assessment tools, we can integrate to a learning analytic ecosystem to map competence trajectory, even for groups or for individual. Every student will have his map, and we can know uh, he's lacking in knowledge, he's lacking in clinical, he's lacking in reflection, and with his mountains and his valleys, and duration of studies is not a problem, is not an issue. Now we can, in the near future, can understand how physicians progressively develop competence. But there are issues, risks, and challenges. In our continent, connectivity risk, infrastructure depends. There are issues of sovereignty, cybersecurity, the protection of student performance data, long-term archiving of educational records, interoperability between these platforms, and the most important is faculty acceptance and digital readiness, digital literacy of teachers and for students. So digital ecosystem requires strong governance and technological resilience. But there are two final major concerns. As said this morning, it's a tool. Digital is a tool. It should support, not replace, human judgment. And technology must serve the pedagogical wisdom. The second important thing is that assessment is very important. Assessment does more than measure competence. It also shapes how students learn. And well-designed assessment ecosystem can promote continuous learning, reflective practice, feedback integration, and progressive competency. And you know the quote, assessment shapes learning or drives learning. So to conclude, medical assessment is undergoing a profound transformation. We are moving from episodic examinations to connected assessment ecosystems to data-informed competence trajectories. The future of assessment is not about conducting more exams, it's about better understanding how physicians progressively develop competence. So, in a new digital world, the real challenge is to combine data, artificial intelligence, and especially pedagogical wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Ahmed. I think many of us are reflecting on the many snapshots we had during our time as medical students. The day when you're not feeling well and you have to do your final exam, and then you end up with the scores you don't believe are yours. Next, we have Dr. Julia Songok. She's a pediatrician and Dean of the Moi University School of Medicine in Kenya. She directs 14 academic programs, managing a student body of over 1,200 undergraduates across 4 degree programs, including the Bachelor of Medicine and Bachelor of Surgery, alongside 432 postgraduate students across 32 specialty residency, fellowship, and doctoral tracks. She's a champion of medical innovation. She prioritizes the development of scale-up of medical simulation and point-of-care devices to elevate patient care and student training. Her strategic leadership leverages the academic model, providing access to healthcare, in short, AMPATH, which is a powerful partnership between Moi University, Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital, and a North American consortium of universities. This vibrant ecosystem fuels a robust clinical research portfolio, currently supporting over 200 active grants and producing an average of 120 peer-reviewed academic publications annually. Great work happening under the leadership of Dean Julia. Please come and speak to us.
Thank you for this opportunity, and it's always humbling to hear someone else talk about what you do. You start wondering if it's you who is being described, so I'm really humbled this morning to share some best practices from our institution. So I will be sharing work in progress. We are not yet where we should be, and so this is actually both an opportunity to share, but also to learn from you if you're in this area of work. Allow me to start by acknowledging Gates Foundation upfront for the grant that supported us to be able to do this. I know they are part of the main funding team for this COMSA, but also to invite all of us to be critical in what I'm going to say, because iron sharpens iron, and it's only by working together that we're able to do great work. So standing here, we have lead principal investigators who submitted a grant that was around transformative technologies. And I've already had a few discussions with colleagues in this forum that are doing great work in this area and have the same strengths and challenges as we do. So looking at the slides, we are really grateful that we are able to look at diagnostic imaging beyond radiology and imaging department that we all know, and be bold to be able to say, are we having delayed diagnosis? Are we having misdiagnosis? Are we having late presentations of advanced disease, which we all relate to? Are we having unnecessary referrals and travel costs for something that is actually not necessary? Are we having increased morbidity and mortality? And for the African landscape, I have a feeling this is true, a true picture of the concerns that we have. So when I was being introduced, there was a mention of AMPATH, academic model providing access to healthcare. This is an innovation that we started in 2004. And part of it was to look at what are the infrastructure in the university, in our teaching hospital, and across the support that we are receiving from collaborating institutions. And we realized that there was need to deliberately have a standalone system that is going to support the catalysis of research, innovation, and community service at a scale that sometimes the university might not be able to fund. So in that space, Indiana University supported us to learn and to pull in more collaborations to work with. And so when in the 90s, when I was a medical student, Indiana University was in the picture, and also Linköping University, Sweden. But over time, we've had multiple collaborations. And the reason I mentioned this is the power of the networks that we have in this room, especially for those of us who are young institutions. So we've managed to be supported until the 2000s, when Indiana, which is the lead collaborating institution for us, said, you're now ready to mentor. So just like when a medical student is being mentored and one day there will be a mentor, even in the world of collaborations, research, innovation, there has to be the same model. So we looked at them and said, what do you mean? And they said, we think you're ready to take up younger institutions. So 5 years ago, we started collaborations, and now we are, as AMPATH Kenya, we are supporting a medical school in Mexico, Pueblo, as AMPATH Mexico. We also have AMPATH Ghana, Tamale in North Ghana, and also Nepal. We have Dulikhel Hospital, which is the teaching hospital for Kathmandu School of Medical Sciences. So I give that background because as you're given more, you're expected to also give more. So that's the background of AMPATH, and that's what has allowed us to do the great work that was mentioned earlier. So we know most of us in this room are aware of point-of-care ultrasound, but allow me to mention that it's bedside. It complements history and physical examination as part of the assessment. It's real-time and also complementary. Allow me to emphasize the complementary bit. It's used as a diagnostic adjunct, and it is not replacing formal ultrasonography. And I slowed down there because at the beginning there was a lot of trouble from radiology and imaging. They were like, who are these people? What is going on? Why is primary healthcare being included in this? And so part of what I'm sharing is to see how we brought on board radiology to be actively involved in this space. So for this project, we are in a catchment area that we support for the work that we do for community service that includes research and innovation. And beyond the implementation, we also had to strengthen some pathways like referrals, and also worked with various device manufacturers, because the training requires that we start with the manual ultrasound practice and skills development, and then bring the AI component later. So for objectives, sorry, it's not showing well, but the focus is on obstetrics initially. And this even aligns with COMSA MNCH focus, because we know that's where our highest challenges are across the continent and for us in Kenya. So we have skills development in obstetrics. And as Kenya, we already have a national policy on point of care ultrasound use in obstetrics. But the rest of the areas that are part of this, which is cardiac care, breast cancer, and pneumonia, requires that we are actively involved in policy development, and we are in that space at the moment. So across the 6 counties, which is a catchment population of about 7 million, we are committed to train 500 healthcare workers per county. So that's 3,000 healthcare workers. These are nurses, clinical officers, medical officers, specialists. And this is running over 4 years. We are at 18 months mark at the moment. And the target is 300,000 obstetrics scans, 150,000 cardiopulmonary scans, and 100,000 breast cancer scans. And so we are on course. I will not go into much detail on that. But the important bit is that when we submitted this grant, it was clear that it was for primary healthcare. But the question now came in, as earlier mentioned by Prof. Presenting before me, what happens to the acceptance and digital literacy of the faculty and the medical specialists at the tertiary institutions where most of us are? If you're training primary healthcare at the scale that you've seen, if as a pediatrician I receive that report from a nurse who has done it at primary healthcare level and the patient has come to me, how am I in the picture? So we went back to Gates Foundation and said, there's a gap here. As much as we are excited to support primary healthcare point of care ultrasound, the faculty, the specialist in the tertiary institution is left behind. So we were able to rework the grant and be able to develop a dedicated point of care ultrasound lab and also got additional probes, both manual and AI assisted, for training of faculty. And for my case, in my school, 60% of my faculty are my teachers. I trained in the same institution. So when I said we really need to train on point of care ultrasound, they were like, you're really pushing it, young lady. Huh? So we had to really work on the politics of supporting faculty in a way that there is acceptance and also their willingness to sit for training. So we now have a dedicated point of care ultrasound training space. It is supporting students and residents and fellows easily. These are young people who don't hesitate to do that. But the biggest investment is on the faculty. We have trained 32 faculty. And for political buy-in, we made sure among the 32, my 14 chairs of departments were actually all in the 1-week training. And the reason was for buy-in initially, because if you look at, say, biochemistry, they were asking, why are we coming for the training? Physiology. Physiology is slightly better. There were things that they could learn. But we made sure whether you're coming from microbiology or radiology or pediatrics, or you're coming in for that 1-week training, because we needed the political buy-in before we were able to scale. And so we've trained 32 faculty, and from that we identified 17 training of trainers that are going to be part of our champions as we scale the training of trainers pool. And we are targeting now to be the super hub to train the higher institution in Kenya. And we already have 2 that have approached us, and also including the teaching hospitals, so that we develop this pool of high-level trainers that support the primary healthcare level, but also our learners. We've managed to have a dedicated full-time nurse to man the skills lab. And these are the little details that the people here who are managers know how difficult it is to even access a full-time staff to be able to man the space and support the students, support the faculty, and even be able to go across departments, because we now have probes that departments have and can go to bedside and back into the simulation lab seamlessly. I put up this picture to show that sometimes when you're doing buy-in, you have to sign up as a learner. So I was in the 5 days of training because I had to make sure that my teachers feel comfortable. And if they had questions about why are we still here on day 4, I'm there to reassure, to say we are on the right track. So Global Ultrasound Institute out in Seattle, Washington, were the team that came to support us. But we made sure our radiologists were also in the lead so that our doctors were able to have acceptance. So it is part of the space that we renovated and some of the equipment that we got. We are in class, yeah, and we are senior, a lot of us are senior citizens here. The public sector retirement age for universities in Kenya was revised from 70 to 74 years. Yeah, and I pause. So I have to teach my teacher, who is 71, 72, 73, on point of care ultrasound. So I have an uphill task, but I will do it. So I was in class and make sure I was sitting in front and cheering on the team, but also really appreciated Gates Foundation for coming in to open the skills lab for us. And so we are still committed to support the counties at primary healthcare level. We want to continue institutionalizing point of care ultrasound, expand the champion pool, support policy development, very important at national level. And also the long-term goal is to integrate point of care data into the mainstream data system for the country, but also looking at the national insurance space. There's nowhere where point of care ultrasound features as a package, a service package. Are we charging 500 shillings? Are we charging 600 shillings? What are we charging when a nurse is giving an ultrasound? We know the rates when a radiologist is the one doing it. What happens if it's a medical officer? What happens if it's a clinical officer? What happens if it's a nurse? How do we charge? So there's a team that's working on costing so that it's put in the insurance package. And finally, following on the footsteps of the team that said Africa should actually be at the forefront in development, we are not just utilizing AI-assisted tools. We are committed in being part of the team to actually develop Africa and Kenya relevant AI integration into point of care ultrasound and also into routine care. So thank you so much, and we are ready for questions. Asante sana.
Thank you, Dean Julia. And I want to thank all our distinguished panelists for their really innovative work that they're doing across so many domains. And we are going to open up the floor to questioning. So if you have a question to any of the panelists or in general, please raise your hand or stand up and somebody with a microphone will come to you. And maybe to kick it off, I'll ask a question here to anyone who might want to answer it. So if AI has all the answers, right? And our students can just go there, a physician can just go to AI and get the answers. Do we really need to teach that much, or what do we need to teach? And how do we avoid that our students might never actually develop the skills? And what happens when the electricity goes out?
Okay. I mean, I can speak very briefly that clearly we still need to teach quite a bit. I mean, AI can provide knowledge or help answer questions and help guide what to be thinking about, but to recognize when to apply that and when not to, and how certainly in complex decision making. It's just one piece of the puzzle, but certainly makes that information that is needed to make the decisions more rapidly available.
You are talking about teaching AI. So students are much better than us. This morning, it was told when I was dean in Casablanca before, 2 years ago, I go to the amphitheater and I see all the students, they have tablets, phones, and they have immediate transcription, they have tools with mind mapping, with MCQ generators, and I told myself, there is a problem. They are much more advanced than us, but they are using some tools that may create hallucination, false, and we have to secure this. So we added module for giving literacy for everybody, especially on how to use, especially on how ethical issues, especially about ethical issues, and we create the platform to give them our tools, validated by our professors, to have equitable. That's the issue, to have equity between students, because some of them are much better than us in AI. So that's the issue for me.
Thank you very much. I think we need to understand what it means to be learning, right? There are a lot of learning tools. We have textbooks, they are learning tools, right? But it doesn't replace the lecturer or the expert. However, I think our students in the era of artificial intelligence, specifically generative AI, the idea is that based on my observation, the students go to the AI and just get the information, right? Give me this, give me that, give me this. One of the example, you can see a conversation between a student and your AI tutor. It goes like, give me 5 questions on apoptosis. The AI give you the 5 questions, then it goes like, give me all the 5 answers to the 5 questions, right? So to me, I think our students have access to these tools. In fact, they are better users than us. But I think they lack the understanding of the tools they use. And that's why it's up to faculty to steer that. Most importantly, is the quality of our assessment that will really test how deep our students understand. And that is where the expertise on our end comes. So in short, our students are learning, but most of them do not really learn to understand, but rather just get the information. Thank you.
So I will focus still on point of care ultrasound and how we've been able to navigate that space. So yes, our students are ahead of us by far. They were already interacting with point of care ultrasound tools online. They might not have been able to access the probes to actually do the skills development on volunteers or patients. But we were able to access, and we still do access, the modules for point of care ultrasounds that are standardized and supported by Global Ultrasound Institute. So we have a solid resource space for our students to go to, but also our students know us. I can't pretend to be able to be proficient on point of care ultrasound in pediatrics. So we have honest conversations with them to say, I understand it, I'm able to guide you. We are walking on this journey together. There are times I'll hold your hand, there are times you'll hold my hand, but the important thing is you must be able to learn, as I also learn to be a facilitator. So we have even changed our language from lecturer to or teacher to facilitator. So when you say facilitator, it's more two-way, it's more like you're just triggering and guiding and be able to give the support without really being always the leading person. There are times you actually know you're the one running after the student. But they need to know that we have a curriculum to deliver. There are skills that are core, but there are other skills that are added advantage. So it's you have to just remain there as the mentor and the one to provide the soft boundaries to be able to deliver on the level. Because you'll find an undergraduate trying to look at things that the postgraduate should be doing, and vice versa. So there's a lot of fluidity in this space of AI. But as I mentioned earlier, when we are introducing point of care ultrasound, we actually start with a manual. So there is no AI showing any prompts here and there, so that the skill precedes the AI. Thank you.
And if I just may add very briefly, I think that previously there's been a lot of discussion about the use of AI for the clinician and AI for the student, but I think that today has really showcased a lot of tools for the educator and how these AI tools can really help the educator with really focus their time on refining the materials and really making higher quality materials, and whether that's for learning or assessment or aggregating competency, really finding trends and identifying struggling learners. So I think seeing AI as a tool to really help facilitate educators across the continent.
There's a question here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Julia, for the wonderful work you are doing in POCUS. I've been involved in ultrasound training for the past, let me say 7 years, where we are training basic obstetric ultrasound in Zimbabwe, but our approach was more like top-down, where we first of all strengthened what I would call referral centers. Then we began to cascade to train staff for the lower levels. Your approach is more like bottom up. So my question is, have you guys created enough referral pathways, because obviously during scanning, people are going to bump on things that they don't understand or they don't know. Is there enough? I was looking at your numbers. You've trained a lot of, you've scanned a lot of patients. So are there enough care pathway, referral pathways, and also the care pathways, are they very clear for most of the conditions that they are going to bump onto? That's number one. Then number two, what are you doing with the sustainability? It's being funded, but what will happen if the funds sort of pull out or run dry? So those are my two questions for you. But otherwise, I'm impressed with the numbers that you guys have trained and also the number of ultrasounds that have been done. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that great question and also bringing out the true anxieties and challenges that come with the transformative technology. We had to write into the grant an objective on strengthening referral systems, and not just referral for point of care ultrasound work, but for referral in general. And it even like almost took half of the work in terms of implementation, because to strengthen referral pathways, looking at all conditions is actually an uphill task, but it was required. The challenge came when we looked at the reception of the point of care ultrasound reports that come from primary healthcare. And so we saw these additional requests to Gates Foundation to say, if our faculty and specialists at tertiary level are not receptive of the great work that we've invested at primary healthcare level, it will just end somewhere. Because the patient will arrive, that report will be pushed aside, the patient is assessed afresh, without really looking at the urgency of, someone has put in effort to pick out an issue. So yes, we strengthened the referral pathway. So if any of you is submitting, say, a request or a grant, you have to also add strengthening of referral pathways embedded into the grant. The bit on sustainability has areas that are clear and also areas that we hope we get solutions, and I am happy to sit with you at lunch to discuss this. One is the policies. The moment it's in the national policy, then it's possible to even look at the budgeting around it, the resources around it, including manpower, which is human resources for health. But also if we need to be sustainable, we have already looked at the diagnostic bits in the MBCHB curriculum, in the residency curricula, in the fellowship curricula, so that we are able to also be able to do this at academic level. And over time, we'll have a critical mass of young people who will be proficient on point of care ultrasound and will not be having the challenges we are talking about today because they had that opportunity in the in-service. So if it goes into policy, and then government will look at it, we are working very closely with national government to make sure they are in the space where we are, so that as the evidence is evolving and coming out, they're also seeing the value. And then the other bit on sustainability is, I mentioned how it will be embedded in the national health insurance package. The moment it's there, it's paid for. The headache is, how do you get the probes? The probes are expensive. And that one, I'm looking for ideas. Thank you.
Thank you. There's a question right here.
Okay. I am Elsie Chiguli Marwede from Uganda, a medical educator, and I'm an advocate for interprofessional education. I know that most of us here are medical doctors. We train in silos, and then we are expected to work as a team. So I would like to know from any of you if you are doing any of these or using these tools in an interprofessional manner to make sure, because some of you, your colleges have colleges of health sciences, so you have students from all other disciplines. If you are doing any of these or using any of these tools in an interprofessional manner, be it in the clinics or basic sciences or even in bedside teaching. Thank you.
So again, the beauty of primary healthcare approach is that we have to look at all cadres of staff. So we have the nurses, we have the clinical officers, we have actually all cadres. Now, the challenge is usually if the space in medicine is not warm enough to a certain implementation, it will affect everybody. And so we needed to really lock in the buy-in from the medical doctors. And that way, anyone else is easy to support because radiology and imaging is heavily led by the radiologist and heavily supported by the ultrasonographers, radiographers, and the rest. And so when the doctors get it, then you move a little faster. And if you look at even the regulator space, for example, for my country, we have regulators for different cadres. The one for doctors and dentists is different from the one of the nurses. So even when we are going into that space to look at the point of care ultrasound as a skill, you have to talk to so many of them. But I think for primary healthcare, we are comfortable that everyone is getting the skill and they're working as a team and people know how much to interpret what the report looks like. So thank you.
It's a very important issue, collaboration and interprofessional collaboration. As I said, for example, our university is built that still till the undergraduate, the first year, in medicine, dentistry, nursery, and all they can learn together. So we, in our top management, we are in the top management, doctors with nurses, with dentists, to create the curricula, to discuss all the modules introduced in different establishments are collectively decided. And for example, this year we started some courses in anatomy, some courses in physiology were done even for engineer students, first year engineer students, medicine and nurses. So for us, it's very important. We build this interprofessionality since the beginning. So when they arrive to the hospital, they don't have conflict. And after that, they have also social activity with many things done together. For continuous education, especially for healthcare professionals, I believe that we have to create, to design systems that enables interprofessional collaboration inevitable. And the best tool in that is simulation. Simulation is a powerful tool for interprofessional collaboration and interprofessional training. In our countries, I have the experience with low cost. We don't need anything. In my service, I have an ICU department, and one box, I transformed the box to a simulation center in situ, and we do with simulated patients without mannequins. At the end of each day, all the team come and we do scenarios about things happening, morbidity, a near miss that happened in my, it's a specific ICU for gynecology and obstetrics. So it's a continuous education, and we have created a system for continuous interprofessional collaboration. I think we have to design the systems to make it inevitable.
Thank you. There's a question there. There.
I'm Ademola Remoso, the Dean of the College of Medicine, University of Lagos in Nigeria. And I really want to, first of all, say that AI will not replace the teachers because students have asynchronous and synchronous learning. So it's always more useful for them when they're doing the asynchronous learning. However, my question really involves the evaluation and examination of students when they've been exposed to a course of material. In the traditional way we used to set questions, you look at discriminatory index, you look at difficulty index, but when the AI sets questions, are we sure that we are not overlooking these important areas, because when boards of medical associations certify, you're not just looking at the mark as 70, 80%, but you look at how many of them are able to overcome this level of difficulty or discrimination. So how, especially Professor Adai and also Professor Ahmed, look at this and answer, is AI able to take care of these indices in certain questions, and are we examining the difficulty index of these questions that are being set by AI for our students? Thank you.
Thank you very much for that question. I think assessment is perhaps one of the most important aspects in the era of artificial intelligence. And I bet that most of us lecturers are using AI to generate questions. Who isn't using AI to generate questions? About your issue about AI and the assessment, there is a way of assessing students, right? We have the standard Bloom's taxonomy and then Webb's depth of knowledge. But one of the research I'm currently doing is looking at AI-generated question and student performance. So what prompted the research was a research I read in Hong Kong, whereby they had two groups of exams. One aspect, lecturers generated a question, like they go to the textbook and then they generated a question, and then another generated by AI. Interestingly, the AI-generated questions, the student did exceedingly well than the lecturer-generated question. And in my current research right now, the tool we built, TOBSM, we've been able to prove that once you incorporate the concept of question generation, that is the distractor analysis, psychometric analysis, quality assurance, those are things we need to look at so that students at the end, they are assessed based on their understanding of the concept rather than just looking test cues. And this is very pervasive. My students, for instance, they did exceedingly well on AI-generated questions they haven't been taught before. Some were scoring up to 30/30 on topics I haven't taught. And rather, on topics that I've taught and used the TOB exam to generate, about 33% of the class failed. So I questioned one of the students, what happened? And she said that when they were going to the examination hall, one of their colleagues said that most of the lecturers are using AI to generate questions, and the longest option is most likely the correct answer. And it turns out that was not the correct answer. So that's contributed to how much most of them fail. So I think about the AI, we need to be very careful about using it to generate assessment for our students, because there is more to just using AI to generate questions than actually sitting down and generate questions. Thank you very much.
Right, I think we have time for one more question.
Hi, my name is Tally from University of Louisville. I'm also with ScholarX, so that's my disclosure as well too. My comment and question comes back to collaborations and silos and so forth. So collaboration is one of the underlying themes of the COMSA MedEd Africa Conference. And as we see the acceleration of AI and so forth, we're also seeing essentially a Cambrian explosion of applications, vibe coded and so forth, from Vercel, Lovable, Base 44. Basically, if you can think it, you can code it. So the challenge perhaps becomes fragmentation, more silos and so forth. And so I'm wondering if the panel can address opportunities or challenges around data standards, interoperability standards, pedagogically standards, accreditation standards. Like, could a case from Intrust be ported to the Dartmouth patient actor system and vice versa? Could outcomes data go to per tutor AI, and that intelligence can be used to more refine the tutoring strategy for that student that struggled on that Intrust case in the simulated OR situation, and then then mapped to the company system coming out of Marrakesh, right? So I'm just curious, how can we proactively address these silos fragmentation challenges before they can potentially overwhelm our ability to collaborate with each other? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a really good question, and maybe I take the privilege of answering that too. Uh, I think also our students now going through these systems, right? Maybe one solution could be to tag them with standardized metadata of competencies they've achieved, of things they've gone through, right? And it actually doesn't stay with the platform, but it stays with the student, and that might be one solution.
I think it's a great point. I think it's something that at this stage is very important to keep at front of mind, that as One Space Africa is being developed, that there absolutely is the ability to integrate between the platforms. I think it's just a matter of, well, one, willingness to do that, which I think for those who are creating these tools and fostering collaboration, then that answer is yes. Of course, we can share that material. And then I think it's just getting the engineers together. I mean, even just before this session, talking with um, the the engineers from One Space Africa, and just how just aligning Entrust, the engineers from Entrust and the engineers from One Space Africa, very easily they can be integrated together. So I think that's just really making sure that the engineers and the computer programmers and the developer teams, that this is thought of and planned for, that these tools can all be interoperable.
Thank you. So I would like to appreciate the question and also focus on our contribution into the space of intelligence. So when Global Ultrasound Institute is training us on the skill, I mentioned that we start with the manual. The reason is the moment we go into the AI-assisted skills and practice, then the AI system is taking it up and using it as data for Western Kenya, because we're in Western Kenya. So we don't want the AI to start picking the skill when we are still really very green, as it were. So we bring on board the AI assisted when there's some level of proficiency, because we are also training AI, which is a good thing, because at the end of the day, when the Global Ultrasound Institute is sending a query about Kenya, what will pop up will actually be what we have contributed into that space, and that informs the scale of why we are talking about 300,000 ultrasound scans for obstetrics, 150,000 for cardiac, because we are very, very determined to contribute into the database of the AI that is in POCUS. So I needed to just mention that, and all of us can do that, so that when we query and I want to see something in Sudan, I should actually be seeing the work that was done on the ground, but not some hallucination that is picking information from other regions of the world. Thank you.
Your question is important. Uh, Now we are using multiple tools, and we are trying to collect data, and we are seeing many things that we didn't see before. For example, discrimination after written exams, the digital platform give us every question, the percentage for every question. We can know if there is a problem with learning or with the dysomology or things like that. And we can collect their use of the platforms. We can detect if there is a problem in the curricula or in the manner of teaching. This data is very interesting, and we can collaborate on it in Africa. The issue is what I told, the sovereignty. There are some data that belongs to my institution, my country, my social and economical context. But all these aspects for me can give richness through the consortium is the tool that can make us discuss, exchange, make our engineers connecting between them, and then we can show the limits, we can detect everything that qui relève. I have French, so that I don't know how to. But for me, the most important about all these and the Uh, I believe that if you want to go on with this collaboration and with digital transformation, we have to invest in training the trainers. We have to have a matrix of competency-based education, assessment, dosimology, and all these. We have to train the trainers and talk the same language about basics, and after, technology will be a tool, an amplifier of all this. I don't know if you understand my.
Thank you. So this is a very interesting topic and our audience is very engaged. So I think we can allow one question and one answer.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. Um, I would like to praise the quality and interest of this discussion that helped understand performance, academic performance of the students are really, really improved. And yesterday we had a session about mental health for the students. I'm talking from a I'm a pathopsychologist and clinical psychologist from the Faculty of Medicine of Douala. And when I understand all these improvements that are very admirable, it offers some calmness and optimism as a teacher, as a professor, because maybe that is the example of our Ghanaian colleague with AI. The lecturer can have a better sleep because with providing the content and the evaluation online with AI, he will not get stressed that much, and he would be able to sleep and protect his mental health and well-being, which is very nice because we all deserve to have a better mental health. My question is about the students, because they will have a better performance because most of them, thanks to this technology, will be able to access and respond. Amongst them, maybe, apart from technological hazard that makes that they will not connect, maybe their brain is not available. And in the statistic, we didn't have any notion of maybe other reason for which these students may not access the content and response. I think if we did um, take it into account, and maybe offer some option with the medical records, the medical history of the students, so that the teacher might know about what these students are going through. Maybe more personalized offer could help receive better results. That is my own stress that is taking me like this, because I share this experience with my students. But the comment was only that of sharing this suggestion that maybe we could introduce in this technology some kind of screening or information about the well-being or medical or psychological condition of the students. We could detect it and indirectly offer an attention that would at the same time improve their academic performance and improve their well-being. Thank you.
Right, thank you.
Thank you for that question. Yes, I like the idea that in the advent of AI, especially in an era whereby lecturers can clone themselves, we gradually move from the role as an active teacher to rather as a mentor or a facilitator to guide. Of course, if a student comes to my class level 100 and he or she has been doing exceedingly well, come to level 200 and then the performance has taken a dip, I have the record to show. So I can be able to, you may not know the mental state, but just the sharp drop in the performance from level 100 to level 200, you can intuitively what? Tell something is up. And mental health can be anything. Of course, in as much as we are talking about mental health, also has to be very careful about data protection and whatnot as well. So in as much as it's fancy to do, we also have to toe on that line. But just using the interaction the student is having, the system can be able to tell you the sentiment the student is using whilst interacting with your AI tutor. So the AI at the back end can tell whether the student was angry, frustrated, stuff like that. And that is also reflected in the insight as well. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Please join us in thanking all our distinguished panelists. Enjoy lunch.
Hello, hello. Before you step out, we've talked about AI and the human touch. So there's one human touch I want us to do today. It's Professor Sarah Chiguli's birthday today. I just wanted us to sing happy birthday to her. So happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Sarah. Happy birthday to you.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. This was great.